The views, opinions, or advice offered by this show's host do not necessarily reflect those of News Talk 780 KOH or its parent company, Cumulus Media. This is Bosma On Business with award-winning entrepreneur Mike Bosma, sponsored by Keystone CPAs. We're getting Northern Nevada back to business.
Good morning, business owners. Happy New Year to you. This installment of Bosma On Business, like every other Saturday, we're going to give you 60 minutes of action-packed business adventure. You Garden Show listeners want to hang tight and hang on. Today's installment of Bosma On Business, we're talking about setting a course, charting a course for 2024. Hopefully you and yours had a fantastic Christmas. And now as we're heading into New Year's, the timing, it makes these long holiday weekends seem like forever. Almost forgot what day it was today. Ouch. But yeah, hopefully you had a happy, healthy, and safe Christmas. And I'll tell you, I know myself, if you want to capture some of the tomfoolery from the Bosma clan festivities, check me out on Facebook. I'd like to be liked on Facebook. Today's installment on Bosma On Business, we're going to really, as I mentioned, set the course for 2024. And it occurred to me, I was talking to a business that I'm helping sell, and the buyer is really wanting to get a good handle on 2024. And I said they need a forecast. And I ended up with this raging debate about the need for a forecast. And I said, well, it really doesn't matter what you think. As the seller, the buyer said, if you can't figure out what 2024 is, then we will figure it out, but we're going to dampen our enthusiasm over 23. So what that means, we're going to do a downward trend in what the business earns, which means there's a downward trend in what the business is going to sell for. So, doing sales transactions, a lot of that flurry of activity this last couple weeks, people trying to get their deals done by the end of 2023. And then some that'll strategically close on Tuesday of next week, just to roll all that incidence of taxation into 2024. I thought it would be good as we're talking, as I talked about that one situation with forecasting, that I was just going to take you through the ABCs and 1, 2, 3s of how to set a plan for 2024, and then weave in just some stories of just how these things have helped people get their mind around certainty in their business operations. Now, I would tell you, I've been teaching this class, this chamber EDU or educational session on 4 pillars of bulletproof business, and it's kind of refocus my own attention on all of these things. But one of the things is, when we talk about planning, it always starts with goals. So I know that. If you're a business owner out there, or even if you're just an individual, if you're an individual trying to figure out what your New Year's resolution is, at least for the first 2 or 3 days of 2024, a goal is a good thing to have, right? And so, I know this last year, because I've got right now an 18-month-old that we're in the process of adopting. And, I'm 58, and little Tyke's I'm going to be 74, and the little Tyke's 18. And I figured, I was carrying way too much weight and maybe not living my healthy best self. And I figured in order to be around for this little guy and not throw my back out every time I picked him up, I needed to get in shape. So last year, I kind of set my intention. I'm going to try and do a better job of that. But I needed, once I set the goal, setting the goal enough is not enough. I need an action plan that goes behind the goal. And I think one of the funnest things that I get to see businesses do is just literally seeing hundreds, almost to the thousands of different business owners trying to riddle all this stuff. The successful business owners have goals and they stick to them, even when the world changes. And that's where I remember back with Bosma Group, which was pre-Keystone, pre-CLA, post-Grant Thornton. So 2006, worst time, by the way, to start a CPA firm. Almost as bad as now. Different reasons, more on that later. But, it's just when I got started, I knew that only 4% of all business owners, more than 4% of all business owners, more than $1 million of revenue. And I knew that scaling from 0 to $1 million is some of the hardest work a business owner will ever do. I'm thankful for the Entrepreneurs Organization Accelerator Program that helps businesses scale, really where those 4 pillars of business success for bulletproofing your business came from, which is all about people, execution, cash, and strategy. But when you set the business goal, and that's where maybe as you're sitting here, as you're winding up, and that's where I think where people they just get overanalyze this goal thing. You know what a BHAG is, big, hairy, audacious goal. Sometimes you just got to swing for the fence, and then you backfill it with a plan to get there. And then on the cash part of that strategy, figure out how to pay for it. But when we talk about the first thing that I want you to think about moving into this next year, whether or not you're a business owner, if whoever is listening, I want you to kind of just set some goals. And the first thing to do that is you have to look back, right? So summarize, like if you're thinking weight, I was just talking weight, personal goals. Where did you start in 1/1 of 23, and where are you at now? My brother, my sister, how you doing? If it's and whatever it is, how many push-ups you can do, just whatever personal goal that you have. It could be. In fact, I'd probably say that one of the best things I ever started a number of years ago is doing this thing called a personal financial statement. It's a balance sheet. You list all your bank accounts, all the assets you own, and then and your liabilities, and then the difference between your assets and your liabilities, your net worth, and do that every year. And I'll tell you, for the people that I've done this with, it's transformational, because where else in your life do you ever look at what your net worth is, right? Because most people are like, I don't have two nickels to rub together, Bosma. It must be nice. But the reality is you have to start somewhere. And, over the holidays, we're talking about gift giving. I gave this book to my youngest son from James Beard. It's called Atomic Habits. And it was I listened to it on Audible. Not a fan of reading, because reading involves sitting down. But if it's kind of like that Travis Kelce commercial. If I could do two things at once, if I can drive to work and listen to a book, I will do that. It's just an effective way to do things. So the twofer. But yeah, Atomic Habits by James Beard, rather. Sorry. And but I'll tell you, a great read, and it just will transform your whole concept of goals and how to move forward in your life and whatever you want. And I think the beauty of entrepreneurship, as we're sitting here reflecting on 2023, looking forward, hopefully, optimistically into 2024, is that the first thing you do is you look where you came from, and do that. So this, do that personal financial statement for 2023, beginning of year, end of year. That'll just tell you how you finished, right? How much assets how much money do you have in the bank? How much money do you have in your retirement account? What are your investments worth? And then I always put down the personal assets, all those toys that we're all famous for as Americans. I have if you've listened to the show at all, I've got a 1985 Silverado. Well, I knew I needed a truck. The reason I didn't buy a new truck is because this stupid personal financial statement I do every year, and I knew that as soon as I drive that truck off the lot, it's going to depreciate. Frustrating. And so I know I was going to have to put it in there when I bought the truck. Actually, trucks are crazy expensive now, but let's say I buy a truck for $70,000. I know as soon as I drive off the lot, it's worth $60,000. I lost $10,000 on the truck. So I don't want to have to go through that pain. So I buy an older truck that's going to go up in value. Right? Now I know it costs some money to maintain it, but having that original cost and then what these things are worth, it'll just help train your mind to kind of stay away from those assets that tend to depreciate in value. I sold my motorhome. Over COVID, I bought a 44-foot Newmar Dutch Star off of eBay that had a salvage title. Lost my shorts on that one, people. The two best days of your life as a motorhome owner, day you buy it, day you sell it. So, lost my shorts on it. And because those things, they fall apart over time. And I thought I got a good deal on it, but not good enough. So, so I took the hit on that one. But that's where doing that personal financial statement as you look back for 2023, and it doesn't have to be exact, people. But like one of the things I like doing is for your cost of your autos, I just go to kellybluebook.com, KBB.com, and I just look it up. Just what's the trade-in value of this thing. I don't get overexcited about options. Just put in your mileage, and what you're doing is you're creating a baseline, so you can see how much your auto is depreciated over time. If you got toys, there's I think it's NADA that values all those, and I just put a link to those values so that next year I can do the same link and it'll automatically update itself. Make it easy on yourself. Do all this in an Excel sheet. So I have personal financial statement all the way back to 2006 when I started Bosma Group. And it just helps me see, because nobody's celebrating your victory for putting any money into a retirement account. This just helps you see it move forward. And sometimes, you maybe, particularly this volatile stock market, you're beating yourself up. It goes up, but what you'll see over time as you do this every year, insert every year, put a new column into the personal financial statement, you see your trajectory. But then as we're talking about planning for 2024, and this is where it gets fun, decide what you want your net worth to be at the end of 2024. Now we're talking, right? I was, I have my former foster daughters that I love. They're 5 and 8, and we spent a lot of time with their family. They've graciously invited us into their world, as we have done the reverse, and went over to the Nana's house for Christmas, and watching I don't know, it seemed like 100 kids go at a million presents. It was interesting. They're very excited, that they're able to put their life together in a way that I think everybody's proud of. They have an apartment. They were able to celebrate Christmas as a family, and good on them. And I wondered, though, as I thought about that, I was like, you got 2 sisters and a mom, and they're all living in 1 or 2 bedroom apartments. And like I said, there's a lot of kids involved, a lot of humanity. And then when somebody loses an apartment, they end up, cohabitating. And so there's a lot of humanity in that. And now as, white Anglo-Saxon Protestants, as the, generally the white people of Reno, we would look at that and like, oh my gosh, this is terrible. But guess what? They love family. This is a Hispanic family, and I've grown to love how they love family, embrace family. And it's just a different, different paradigm looking at it. But what I was thinking as I was leaving that Christmas party last week, I thought, what if these 3 families bought a 4-plex, right? And this is something that nobody in this, so you have the 2 sisters and the mom, nobody drives. Bus passes, right? Most expensive way to get around Reno, bus pass, right? And because they don't drive, then they have to go to the more expensive stores. So you shop at the convenience store. It's just like, guys, you can have a normal life, air quotes, normal life, if you would just pool your money and be a little bit smarter about this. But this is just something that's completely foreign to them. And I thought about it. It's like, you could basically buy a 4-plex that is going to be way nicer than the dump that they live in. And that way they control their own destiny. And then they can rent that other 4-plex. Each, mom, sister can live in 3 of the 4. You can rent out the other one. And basically, I was doing the math, because it's what I do. I go jump on LoopNet and I see what 4-plexes are running for, which actually they're kind of on sale now. I found one. I think it was $150,000 a door, and I'll just help you with that right now. So that's a $600,000 investment. Those 4-plexes, they go for $1,500 a month. Well, so for $6,000 a month, you will easily afford the debt service on $600,000 4-plex. And so it's like it completely pencils. Now, it needs a little work, right? Because we call that the sweat of your brow. So you go in, you rehab it yourself. So that way, we're talking about how to make money for 2024. And if you're trying to really move the agenda forward and increase your wealth, when you set that the tone of your intention for 2024, doing something like that, it will make you a lot of money. I'll explain more when we come back. It's Bosma on Business, News Talk 780, KWH. Welcome back to Bosma On Business. Your host, Mike Bosma, doing a little strategic planning for 2024 and talking about, doing your personal financial statement and, assets less liabilities equals your net worth. But then kind of the big ask is deciding how much do you want to be worth next year. Now, it could be, it can be modest, right? And you have to start somewhere. Like, in fact, I'd say most people listening to the show, they don't have savings. They live paycheck to paycheck because that's what more than half of our population does. And I will tell you, so you don't need to, if you wonder, like, what's it even worth saving $100? If you're listening to the show and you don't have $2,500 in the bank, I'm going to tell you, you got to change your ways. You got to change your spending habits, because otherwise you're basically one paycheck away from being homeless or back in the CARES campus. Not that that's a bad thing. It is a safety net for people, but you don't want that to be your safety net. You want to be, basically, all things about entrepreneurship is controlling your own destiny, my people. Right. And it's just being able to say, hey, do I need to, am I looking for a government handout? And I'll tell you, I see how the government programs work. Oy vey. And I'll tell you, these people as government workers that implement these programs, salt of the earth, these are angels that walk among us. But man, it's a hot mess. It's just, I had, when we were opening presents last week with my former foster kids family, and there's a little boy in this mix, one of the nanas or aunts' kids, and so they get the kids presents, but then his school must have had something for kids in need, and he came home, I'm telling you, with I don't know $1,000 worth of Sonic toys, right? And I look at that and I'm like, and of course he's at the moon. All his siblings are like, hey, what about me and my chopped liver, right? So you created this kind of funk in this family, and the people are well-meaning. So what we did to the mother of her former foster kids, we gave her a piggy bank, and just told her, it's like, you just put in your dollars, put in your cents, and just put the money in, don't take it out, right? Well, unbeknownst to her, I put a $100 bill in there. And what the hope is, if she was able to, really start, saving dollars, because that's what we're talking about. You have to start somewhere, right? You have, save $1, save $10, save $100, right? And then, from a biblical perspective, if you're a people of faith, as am I, right? The Bible tells us, manage well, manage more. Parable of the talents. There you go. My sermon for this Saturday. But it's just, manage well, manage more. And so just be good stewards of what you got. But you could start looking at last year and then say, then how much do I want next year? And then the beauty of entrepreneurship, and I was talking about buying a fourplex, or just, and maybe And ultimately, you have to think about, what do you do with your non-working hours? And ultimately, you have time to sell. You buy that fourplex, fix it up yourself. Home Depot is your best friend. If you need help, if you need labor, go down to Galletti Way. I was driving down there the other day. There's 40 people down there looking for work. And it just ask how much their day rate is. Salt to the earth. They'll work. Honest people. They've been vetted. And they'll help you, you just need help, and so that's where, think of it this way. Here's, as you're trying to figure out how to move the needle forward, it's a simple function. If you're trying to say, how much do I need my net worth to be next year? It's either you're going to spend less or make more. There's no way to cheese that system. But if you're able to start to invest, I gave both of my daughters a Schwab account this year, because I talk a lot about swiping to the Schwab account. Not a lot of money in there, but I just want them to get used to, this is how this works. Invest in a simple, Dow Jones Industrial Average Index, and just watch it work. They know how much went in there, but the idea is trying to train up my kids. Hey, if you run into an extra $100, throw it in there, right? If you do a side hustle, throw it in there. Don't just, I had a lady I was talking to, she got a raise from Tesla. She was making $20 an hour. And then she got a raise to $35 an hour. Right. And she's talking about all the stuff she can buy. I go, just put it in savings, put it in your Schwab account, right? Or at least part of it, because, you weren't used to living on this, and I can see how you spend. It's silly. It's a folly, but you got to get used to saving. So if you set your intention for next year, what we're talking about, strategic planning, 2024, that you're going to say, well, this is how much I'm worth today, and this is how much I want to be worth next year. And then you set a course to be able to get there. And that's the beauty of entrepreneurship, right? And I've seen people be able to pull that one off on Etsy stores. I've seen it, and it takes, think of it this way. As I'm talking about, kind of new things, and I know you're out there, you're getting a little itchy scratchy because you say, I can't do that. I would encourage you, right? Even if it's something as simple as learning something new next year, learn it. I want to surf, but if you saw my girth is inconsistent with surf, if you know what I mean. So for Christmas, I asked for, a balance surfboard rider. And I was working on that over this last week, and my legs are killing me, my stomach's killing me. But I'm like, if my goal at the end of 2024 is to be able to surf, get up on a surfboard, I knew that there's some things that have to go together to make that magic happen. Number one, I need to have some core so that I can have balance. And I figured, hey, this little thing, I can stand in my office with my little surfboard rider thing, on a conference call, because that's pretty much what I do all day, every day. And every day I get a little bit better on this thing. And it's fun, right? Because I can see this is consistent with where I want to go. I'm just not somebody that's, has the discipline to go to a gym and do 50 push-ups and that kind of stuff. But I knew it's like, if I can just work it into I mentioned the twofer, right? Work it. I'm in my office on a call, on a headset. I can be standing, doing the balancing on my surfboard rider, and that's accomplishing two things without taking any more time. But it is a talk about time, probably the most precious asset we all have. Talking about financial planning. In one of the things that maybe if you're struggling with having enough time, like just do a journal and schedule out what you spent your time on. What did you do? Right. And what you'll find is maybe a way to save a minute or two, or maybe an hour or two, that you can put productive things in instead of unproductive things. And I think that's where, when I look at successful people that have done what I'm recommending well, they're all about self-improvement, being a little bit smarter this year than they were next year. What do they want to learn? Always learning and growing. And I think that's where, when some of the hacks to be able, because ultimately, what you're worth at the end of 2024 isn't as important. It's not wealth for wealth's sakes, people. It was really more about, at what age do I want to, if something happens, heaven forbid, you get sick and you can't work. At what age do you want to have enough financial wealth so that you're not worried about being able to pay the bills? And I think, and then this point in the middle, so like I say, you set your 5-year plan, 10-year plan, how you're, basically reverse engineer it. How old do you want to be when you retire? And you're going to say, I'm never going to retire. How old do you want to be where you don't have to go to work without being homeless, or without having to, sell the nice house because now you can't afford it? How or be a burden on your kids, whatever. Just be self-reliant and decide, at what age do I want to be financially free? And I will tell you, my people, the sooner that you do that, right? You don't have to, Social Security starts at 67, I guess. No, and no. Some of the funnest people I hang out with are people that said, I want to be financially free at 30. And how do they do that, right? Because they don't make any money before in their 20s. And they said, well, I'm just going to have no overhead. I'm going to be wicked smart with how I spend money, and I'm just going to be wicked smart with how I spend my time. And they make all the money, and they have all the wealth, and they can travel the world for fun, which most people want to do for the last 2 years of their life when their health is giving out, and they can't get in and out of an airport. I'm like, no, you're doing it all wrong. But it's like, I think, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but I think some ways the man, kind of wants us to be locked, to our desk, wanting all these toys and trinkets and not freedom. And I think I'm all about financial freedom. So when we come back, we're talking about setting a course for 2024. And next installment, we really want to press into making some good life-changing habits. It's the New Year's edition of Bosma On Business, News Talk 780 KWH. Welcome back to Bosma On Business. Your host, Mike Bosma. Hey, I talked on the last couple of weeks' shows. As bottom of the hour, we always do a little bit of a tax tip, and there's still time, not much time, maybe. I don't even know if you can pull this one off. It's Saturday, but right before New Year's. But if you haven't stuffed your income tax bracket, see if you can go online to your IRA custodian and convert your IRA to a Roth IRA, at least a portion of it. I'll tell you, because that's some of the smartest planning you'll ever do. $6,000 a year, is to put it in, which you can do it after year end. But if you have, if you have a low income year, let's say, for the sake of example, that you're going to always be in the 22% tax bracket and you're currently in the 12% tax bracket, do enough Roth conversion to get you into the 22% tax bracket. A low tax bracket is a terrible thing to waste. So maybe you can pull that one off just on online, but there's not going to be anybody that's going to be able to answer a phone and do it. So I think that's some of the benefits of, if you're working with Brian Wheeler at Keystone Wealth Advisors, it's just a good way to be smart about that stuff. Anyway, enough on tax. We're talking about strategic plan for 2022 or 2024 rather. Sorry. And so the kind of the process is do a personal financial statement 2023. Where am I at? Where to begin? Beginning of the year, end of the year, assets, liabilities. Guesstimate it. It doesn't have to be exact. But then set how much do I want to be? And I'd say go out till whenever you want to be financially free, and because then you can start that process and then work backwards to how much you need to be worth at the end of 2024. But when you set that, and I'll just tell you, so most people in Reno just looking, so the average wage for a family of four, average household income is $65,000 in Washoe County. And most people listening to this show, because I know the demographics of you, $65,000, you spend that on vacation sometimes. So, so we're just going to say in round numbers, $100,000. It's because it's Saturday before New Year's and my brain's a little fuzzy. So, but let's say you make $100,000 a year in your household. How much do you need to be financially free? And so basically multiply that by 20, which is $2 million. Right, $2 million. And you're going to say, Bosma, at $6,000 a year into my IRA, I can't get to $2 million. It doesn't work. I go, that's why we're talking. Okay, and that's the second point in planning for 2024. Do a reality check. Both, and I'll tell you. So if you're making $100,000 a year, you're probably let's say $20,000 a year is taxes. So you're living on $80,000 a year. And the problem is when you do your reality check, step 2 of 2024 strategic planning. You got to have that come to Jesus meeting with yourself and like, okay, I'm spending every penny of 80, and I'm not going to be able to save enough so I can have a normal return and be able to retire. And that's where most people are. That reality check, sobering. And ultimately, if you're 50 and broke, and you want to retire at 65, you need, I did this arithmetically, you need to save 50% of what you make to retire on the residual. And so I'll help you with that. So if you're making $100,000 a year, you need to save, and you're 50 and broke, you need to save $50,000 a year for 15 years to be able to have $1 million saved up to keep, because you make 100, you save 50, now you're living on 50. So you need $1 million to live on 50 is how the math goes, people. So it's just like, right. And so when I give people that sobering advice, and I'm like, and that's just it, right? We're working, we're raising our kids, we're busy, and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm 50 and broke, or virtually little or no savings. You don't have, you're going to have to cut your lifestyle by half in order to be able to have enough to retire, and that's where a lot of times where people, one of my other favorite sayings is a crisis is a terrible thing to waste, just like a low income tax bracket. And that's where I would really encourage it is like when you do this planning, talk to Brian Wheeler at Keystone Wealth Advisors, 775-786-4900. If you haven't done this, he does financial plans all day, every day. And if you need some help doing the math, man, you got to do it. You have to. And you just got to get your mind around this stuff because you don't want to be like oh no, I saved 10% in my retirement account. I should be fine. Well, it's fine if you started when you're 18. It's not going to be fine at the end. And so that's where you just have to know where you're at so you know if you have a problem or not, right? And that's where a lot of times we talk about these side hustles, a way to make an extra buck or two in your spare time, that sense of urgency when you do your reality check is what's needed to really get skippy with getting that done. It's just how it goes. And so that's where, and I've had consults with people over the years, 12 years now, right? Where people, they lose their job or they do this and they're like, I don't know how to, I'm hosed. I'm out of luck. And like, it's never the case, and that's where, you can, even, I mentioned invest in the fourplex, but it all starts with, you need a little savings account, right? So if you want to buy the fourplex, how much does it cost you? If you buy a $600,000 fourplex, how much down payment are you going to have to come up with? $120,000, and so that's where you need a little to make a lot. And so and that's where that fourplex is worth 6, and then in 15 years, it's going to be worth $1 million too. So if you do nothing else, if nothing else resonates with you on this show, I'm just trying to show you arithmetically that because if you have 4 people paying rent and that it doesn't cost you anything, right? Because they're paying down your mortgage, you're not getting any cash for it. You're gonna need $120,000 to buy a $600,000 fourplex. That'll get that in 15 years is going to be worth $1 million too, and it'll be paid for. So it's just like, we're all of a sudden that $2 million doesn't seem so hard because you don't need to save $2 million. You need to get to 120. You need a chunk of capital to make your next business hustle work. It's how it works. You want to go out into business on your own, people? It's going to cost you $50,000. It's just the brass tacks, how much it is. You try and do it for less than that. You can, right? Because, again, never underestimate the power of an entrepreneur or a hungry mama, whatever it is. But I'll tell you, man, once you figure it out, you're like, well, I'll just make my life a lot easier if I start with 50. So that way I'm not building my own website and hired somebody else to do it. I'm not coming up with my own logo. I got a professional that does it. I can get an LLC or a corporation, actually have a real business. I can hire people. It's not in my own name, that kind of stuff. So it's just, it's going to cost you $50,000 to have to pay your payroll. You started a lawn mowing business. It's going to cost you $50,000 to get started. Buy the equipment, hire the people, right? People, it's just how it works. So just why can't you save $50,000 outside of your retirement account, right? It's because your need for a latte surpasses your need to have financial freedom, and that's where you got to have this slap in the face from the reality check. Is like, can I have enough to retire? And then do you change your behavior, right? But I'll tell you, the happiest people I know, this is just straight up, happiest people I know are people that have enough in the bank and they're not sweating making the rent. Right? They live a stress-free life, and then you continue that thought down the road when you say, I think what was it, last week I talked about, all I want for Christmas is a Tesla. So my Tesla Model Y I bought. I can afford the Model S, but I'm like, there's no way I'm spending an extra $40,000. I bought the Model Y, and that thing's a ton of fun to drive. You don't believe me? Get in the passenger seat. I'll put the pedal to the metal and which you can't call the gas pedal in the Tesla gas pedal, right? Now it's an acceleration pedal. I don't know. Anyway, probably overthinking it. It doesn't have gas, people. But yeah, it's funny. My youngest son was in my grill about my Tesla. You bought a Tesla. You know how much pounds? Like, I bought it because it's fast and it's free. Like, it's the biggest no-brainer. The government paid me $7,500 to buy a Tesla. I'm gonna buy a Tesla. Thank you. And besides, and it can beat your car. So anyway, so talk about the number 2 brass tacks of 2024 financial planning or strategic planning. Do a reality check. Is it going to be enough over time to get you financial free? And then number 3 is important. And then choose where you're going to focus your time in 2024, right? We all have 24 hours a day. I mentioned it earlier. We all have 24 hours a day. The time is the great equalizer, right? It doesn't matter how much money you have. It doesn't matter how smart you are. We all get 24 hours. And that's, I think, in God's economy, how he just kind of had a chuckle to say, okay, yeah, there's some people I'm going to bless with riches by being born into a wealthy family. There's some people are blessed with intelligence. They didn't earn. They got it. And some people are on the reverse side of that equation on both sides. But the thing that brings us all into humanity is 24 hours a day. That we can't stretch it. There's nothing we can do to get more time. So you have to choose how to focus your time. And like I said on the last segment, if you're wondering if most people in America would self-identify, especially going over this last holiday season, I have no time. Well, guess what? In our society, we have more conveniences than most of the world, right? I mean, I was at church at our Christmas service, Life Church, and they're going about, and the manger was probably a house, and most people in the Middle East, which I think is still true today, by the way, you have a dirt floor, and the first floor of that, there's usually a room where the animals sleep. And I think a number of years ago, metrics a little dated, but a number of years ago, 80% of the world's population sleep on a dirt floor with farm animals, just like baby Jesus. So, so we look at our society and we're the most stressed people on the planet. We have no time, but we have every convenience known to man. Right, so we have running water. I can go to the restroom at 5:00 in the morning, and I don't have to go outside. It's amazing, and I have heated floors. It's a hard life. It's a hard not life, is what we say in our family. So it's just like you have to take a hard look at where you're spending your time. Right, how much time are you on social media, scrolling to no end? Right, it's just it's like a mindless addiction. Right, or probably the biggest time sucker in our life is the boob tube, the TV, right? So, you want to, create an area of focus is, with it, you cannot just take something out of your life. You have to replace it with something. So if you're going to say, okay, I'm going to watch TV less, what are you going to do in its place, right? My oldest daughter's boyfriend, showed me how he set up his Etsy store. So he has these, Christian sayings that he came up with, these T-shirts, and then, and you can just sell them on Etsy, and it's like, okay, that's kind of cool. He doesn't have to make anything. He designed the first one. He has a store there. It's all, when somebody orders one, they print it, ship it within a week, easy skeezy lemon squeezy. So that's where, the third leg of that planning stool is decide where you're going to focus. What do you want? We talked about wealth, but ultimately, maybe you're talking about health. Maybe maybe it's just feeling more, a lot more in control of your destiny. Whatever it is, set your intention, set your focus. When we come back, the number one thing that you need to think about for 2024, you heard it here and only here. It's Bosma on Business, News Talk 780 KOH. Welcome back, Bosma on Business. Your host, Mike Bosma. The first part of the show, I talked about gathering financial data, kind of seeing where the dust settled for 2023. If you're struggling with knowing where you're at, either on your personal bank account, what you spend money on, or your business, Linda Chama at Keystone in our outsourced accounting department does an amazing job of helping people come up with an efficient way to get that data. So that's where a lot of people meet with me, but a lot of people meet with Brian Wheeler. A lot of people meet with Linda to talk about these things rather than use an hour of my time, use their functional expertise. So again, the team will give you an hour of their time at no charge to you, and do the best we can to help you in that hour to fix your accounting woes. Anyway, so I promise you, the number one thing for 2024, and I would tell you, is this: know when to say no. The quality of your yeses is defined by the volume of your no's. And sometimes it's hard, I would say, I'm an old softy. So if anybody ever asks me anything, I'm Johnny on the spot and would love to do it. But that's why having what your focus is in 2024, like I said, it could be health, wealth, whatever. But then just know, is this going to derail that? Is that going to be a problem for that? And maybe it's something as simple as you want to get a handle on your health, and you're going to, I've been on Octavia for 8 months. It's an eating plan that makes it so I don't have to think about eating, which is what I need to be successful, because I'm a terrible planner on that stuff. If you need some help on that, but it's like, so if you're going to go out to dinner, you're just going to say, okay, is there something I can eat that's going to be consistent with my eating plan? And just be willing to say no, right? No, I'm not going to go out. It's like, I'm not going to, have to work for 6 months to work back off one meal. I'm not going to do it. Right? Because it's inconsistent with what I want in life. So that's why I guess my number one thing, my big aha, my big takeaway, know when to say no. Most successful people I know, they are masters at no. Because they're focused on what they want. They know what they want, and they don't take their eye off that prize. And so, my 2 cents. Anywho, so that's, as I mentioned, if you need some help, 775-786-4900 and Bosma at keystone.cpa. Especially kind of rolling into the new year, we have a little bit of time. Hallelujah, because it's been crazy busy. But yeah, and that's where as I look forward, I'm excited kind of for what this next year. We just finished our strategic plan for 2024 for Keystone CPAs, Keystone Wealth Advisors, and outsourced accounting. And it was really encouraging, we because ultimately we set a revenue target for where we think, in order to help businesses, how much revenue we need, which tells us how many people we need. And so that set a hiring plan in place for us. We've got 4 people starting on Tuesday. So getting them trained up. And, I think that's where, if, as I talk about the planning part of it, it's been very, very encouraging to me to see how effective this process is. And I think those are, I've got Mark Hirschmeyer in my office that can help if you just need some help with that planning and strategy part of it, because, that's his skills and training. And so it's a matter of, whatever you need, if we can help, that's what we're here for. Next week, going to be able to start off strong with more business owners, of course, more business expertise. Until then, you business owners, keep that business engine humming. It's Bosma on Business, News Talk 780 KOH.